much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like you to suggest some idea to my students. You have any suggestion for the student or young generation who are working at an uncomfortable atmosphere? I mean that sometimes like their idea was blocked or banned or censorship. You have any idea to inspire them to challenge to go on? Thank you very much.
I have just one basic point to make, which is young people have something that older people like us don't have. You have immunity. Yeah. You can say the worst thing, you can say the most blunt thing, the most offensive thing, and get away with it. If I say the same thing, I get in there. You say the same thing, they say, he doesn't know, he's saying it out of ignorance. They probably rap you in the knuckles, they scold you, but they leave you. Take advantage of the immunity. Do whatever you can before you cross 21, or in some countries it's 18. And experiment. Youth is the time for idealism. You know what I'm saying? So don't be over anxious to grow up, because it's hell of a boring being an adult. Seriously. I hope you remember that. Okay? Thank you.
I would like to give a follow-up question. I identify very well with the lady who spoke because I also teach at university in the Philippines, and it was very heartening to hear from Mr. Sadasiban that many institutions are willing to tap into the youth market, not just because it's a very large audience, but they recognize that the young represents a very smart group, aside from being inexpensive as employees, right? How can our young people make sure that they're not taken advantage of?
Well, young people are a lot smarter than we think they are. Some of the young people I meet today, you know, as a potential employer in various other capacities, actually strike a very hard bargain. I find young people are able to exercise their charm, their youthful charm, and strike a very good deal. So, first of all, I think we should be careful not to underestimate young people's ability to be sharp in business negotiations. Number two, young people must also accept that getting your foot in the door is actually sometimes more important than getting paid well for your first job. This is advice I give a lot of young people. You know, between getting an internship in an organization that is a highly admired organization and get paid nothing for it for the first 2 years, just to serve coffee, observe and learn, as opposed to getting paid $2,000 in a crap organization, I choose the first. Because after going through the 2 years in a highly admired organization where you learn so much just by having the privilege of observing, you're going to be a lot more marketable after that. So I think we also need to accept that. That's not exploitation, that is called opportunity. So we need to draw a distinction between opportunity and downright exploitation. I remember once telling this young person who came in, he says, look, I really want to work with you. I want to work in your company, I want to work with you, you know, and so on. And then I said, fine, how much are you willing to pay me? It's a young university graduate. I said, how much are you willing to pay me? She said, what do you mean? I said, hey, you said you want to work with me, right? I didn't say I want to engage you. So if you want to work with me, it's a fair question, how much are you going to pay me? You know what, at the end of the interview, she said she'll pay me $500 a month for internship. She will pay me $500 a month, right? I was so impressed by that I gave her $1,000 as a university. She was still in the final year. I gave her $1,000 a month as an intern. See, what I'm saying is sometimes you need to exercise that interesting twist to be able to get the best deals. And from what I've observed, some of the young people who have landed up the most exciting jobs and opportunities are not your straight A students. Are students who are able to demonstrate the X factor when you go in for the job interview. So be yourself. come up with something exceptional, something unique. And you know what? You have a much better chance than getting your straight A's. I'm not saying straight A's are not important, otherwise she's going to scold me on this. Getting your good grades are important, but that's not everything. But my own sense, people out there value young people, and I don't think most organizations would want to exploit, but they will not want to overpay you and accept it if that job is important for you or the exposure is important for you. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Sadasivan. That has certainly become more than just a keynote address, don't you agree? A little bit of consulting here and some career advice as well. I give the floor now to the Secretary General of AMIC to give a response to that proposal about AYCN as being part of the ASEAN endeavor, and then a short closing remark from Dr. Mukidi.
Thank you, Titi. You're doing a tremendous job, by the way. To answer the question about what we are doing with AYCN, the fact that we have a day-long workshop tomorrow underscores the fact that at AMIC we see a tremendous potential in AYCN. We are, I mean, Vishwa did address some of the issues that we had in the past, but over the last year we have a new AYCN coordinator who is the audience here. We have been building up a lot of initiatives at AYCN, including starting media clubs in universities and communication institutes, instituting a faculty advisor. The goal is to build collaborative partnerships and to include youth in the process. And specifically about ASEAN, right now we have youth from ASEAN countries that we have invited to come here to participate in the workshops. But we intend to develop similar initiatives in South Asia and in other countries in Asia, where we want to build bridges across all these groups. And one of the initiatives is to start this youth news network, where these media clubs, AYCN clubs, will be used to contribute news stories. We want to bring in student newspapers into that process, and also tag along the youth initiatives with our annual conference, where we have a day-long stream of workshops for youth, and start a youth track with the annual conference. So there are other initiatives that we are working with, but we do see tremendous potential in involving youth, because there are also people that we want to tap into for our main AMIC initiatives. So, I mean, I can talk individually if you have specific questions, but in broad, in a broad perspective, we do see a lot of initiatives that will come forward in the next year or two.
Add a comment there. I'm delighted to hear what you're saying, that is being revived with a different point person, and I think this is important. If I could just make one simple suggestion, which is don't leave out commercial participation in the equation, because you're going to run out of funds. Okay, and commercial participation can help in two ways. One, funding. In fact, three ways. Number two, ideas. Number three, very importantly, right, they bring a certain brand association that helps AMIC. Imagine if you're able to strike a deal with an organization like Google. Don't rule out the possibility that an organization like Google can actually find reason to participate in this, because it involves youth. And there's no better way to gain traction in the region, which means sales, right? And mind share. There's no better way than to participate through a non-profit organization which helps them get into the roots without having government-to-government interference. So in a way, you are facilitating their gaining mind share and therefore market share. So that might be a possibility, right? Google, what about Apple? So some of these organizations help you with positive brand association as well, that will raise the profile of the organization and the ventures that you go into. It's just a simple suggestion. that it is possible. And I'm willing to talk to you further about how we can do this, for the right fee. I was kidding about a fee.
Just a quick rejoinder, as long as Vishwa's finding us the money, we are willing to pay the fee. That's not an issue, but just to tell you one more thing that addresses Vishwa's suggestion. Some of you might know David Astley, the former Secretary General of the Asian Broadcasting Union. He started an organization called Media Alliance, which is an alliance of media organizations that AMIC is now talking to, and we are working together with the Media Alliance on a climate change initiative. David's partner Craig Hobbs might stop by tomorrow just to take part in the workshops. But I didn't want to say anything about that before we have a formal agreement on the table. But one of the initiatives we are talking with Media Alliance, and what Media Alliance is doing is developing spots on climate change.
Fresh, and of course, while our keynote speaker is here, unfortunately, Mr. Pash of FES had to go to another commitment. He had excused himself earlier on. Shall we all move forward? May we have a photo taking with Dr. Mobidi and Mr. Sadasiwan? Everybody come closer. Our official photographer is ready.
Sharing. Before it was film. Film was a primary medium of entertainment all over the world, and just as many of us enjoyed Hollywood, and now there's a lot of Bollywood, etc. Through film, we have the internet now. We have social media to kind of rediscover this old work, share it very cheaply and quickly, and there's so much out there. If you just search YouTube, so it's not just full of new content, it's also full of vintage content. A lot of these things, I dare anyone here to mention any vintage film from any...
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be here today. I'd like to thank Amy very much for giving me this chance to come here and share the information with you. I'd like to say that ASEAN coverage is very important in pushing our very big goal of building ASEAN community in 5 years. The time is very short, and we really need to push the people in the region to know better about each other. Because I think it is a rather disappointing fact.
So most of the people in Cambodia before didn't know much about how would the news come and what is the importance of the news. So when people they know what is news important now, they know way how to develop themselves and how to develop their own countries. This was very important. It's just me, I'm a young producer and young journalist too. So I would share my experience to the young student from Chulalongkorn University of Thailand too. So what my experience I learned from the experiences. We don't have a media school. So everything that I work with the media, I learn from experience from who that have knowledge from the efforts from another country around the world. So most of them, when they come back, they share the experience to the young generation. So until now, we just start the media school just like a couple of years. So all of them, they can start with the profession. So this is quite very important role for the journalists, We cannot do it the wrong way. So when we have a good education, we can do very seriously to the media industry. So like me, as a level of experience, I can do like a little from the starting point. So I can like going slowly, but I have to study and work in the same time. So that's why I can go a little bit is much better until now. So the most important I go to a TV station in TV case, artificial technology program that provide good technologies to Cambodian society, because it's a key point is to develop to the rural areas, especially because right now for the transform information from the rural area to the city to the downtown is very important. We cannot bring everything by transportation or anything, but for technology is very helpful. We can send by email, anything. It's going good. It's good for develop business. So this is my program that I have to develop. So I have to educate, follow the media, and to help to Cambodian people in the societies. So it's very, very impressive. So anyway, for the documentary too, so the documentary that I work with the TV case is more helpful, mostly it's an education documentary too, so, and UN documentaries. So such as like in the modern time, a lot of virus infection, for example, like bird flu or AH11. So many Cambodian people don't know that, so we have to provide one to the rural area. Especially broadcasting system is provide a serious points to the people how to protect themselves from the virus, how it's going to be go far away from that. And also the natural disaster, the stormy. Cambodia, we don't have tsunami. We don't have much coastals. We don't have much natural disaster. But our opinion, we have to educate the people to protect themselves, to escape from that. Because the natural disaster is very strong. It's kill a lot of people, such as tsunami. So this is the basic thing that our government and like me, as a journalist and as a young user, can share the experience with them. So this everything that I learned from the experiences we can share to all of you. So in this keynote, in this session is the media forum, so I hope that we can share a lot of experience with each other and provide a good quality of documentary we can share to the Asian network. So I hopefully that we can create a new topic and provide good education to the people of Asia. Thank you very much.
Good morning, almost good afternoon, almost lunchtime. So we should be keeping much too long. But I'm just speaking briefly here to share my views. First of all, as a researcher, keen viewer of documentaries. I'm not in anywhere from the documentary production industry. So we would count on the three experts being here to share their insights. But just to share a few thoughts with you from two angles. One being, the keyword of course is seeing ASEAN through ASEAN eyes. Okay, for that, I think I qualify to speak briefly, seeing ASEAN through ASEAN eyes. Remove my shrouds as an academic or researcher for a minute, but just as an ASEAN population or ASEAN member from a member country, Thailand. Of course now we keep hearing talks about speeding up the process of convergence, bringing up the populations for 2015. And a lot of countries still lag behind in terms of preparing for that agenda, very agenda, in the next 5 years' time. If you are with me, you will understand that convergence into one large block of countries is not an easy task. The EU has struggled with it for decades, and I'm sure ASEAN will be going through a lot of challenging paths, play a very vital role in it. Because it's not only genuine, but it allows for fresh interpretation. Documentaries are far apart from hard news and current affairs. In that, there's no one to give you that sort of interpretation of news, of current affairs. But you yourself are authors, interpreters. In fact, secondary producers of that documentaries, because we critique what we are viewing. You know, a lot of you will agree with me that documentary viewers are far more sophisticated, lots, compared to general news and hard news and current affairs. You know, even though the three programming categories I mentioned claim a much larger market share compared to documentary viewers, but we can also claim that we have cream of the cream watching documentaries. We're not just anyone watching current affairs and hard news and are easy to be led to believe in however way they put it. So, documentaries definitely play a great role. And another linkage I wish to make here, just on this brief note, is that it's now time to involve the younger generations into the preparation of ASEAN community. And this conference, this forum, will provide that milestone. One of the guest lecturers just in the morning as well, the keynote speaker as well as the fellow from Philippines just said it very well just now, that it's now time, to really get the young ones involved in this business of making documentaries. And it's not just documentaries, but it has to speak to the hearts and minds of the ASEAN viewers. Our cultural heritage, could be that we involve more materials from the grassroots communities. Thailand, of course, quite a few of other countries are doing this quite well, but from my knowledge, Thailand is now almost like a hub or the hub in terms of promoting grassroots communication models or grassroots community media. One example is community radio, but of course the Philippines is also very advanced in terms of providing models for community radio. So, what we can derive as rich materials for documentary making can be fed through the channels from the grassroots communities itself. Because, as you may know, if you rely too heavily on documentary writers who are middle class or very well educated people, oftentimes they miss certain points, which will speak to the hearts and minds of the grassroots viewers. Therefore, in the many surveys that I have read across ASEAN television channels, documentaries still remain the least viewed segment on television, because the grassroots members represent the widest audience, the widest market share. So one of the questions is, how do we tailor, almost universalize the documentary contents so that it touches the hearts and minds of the grassroots viewers as well. Let alone just focusing on translating materials from the West. Even though I agree that they produce very high quality contents, but I think it's now time, and this forum will lead the way or provide a small stepping stone towards that attempt, to involve the young ones as well as the grassroots communities to come in and make this documentary filmmaking a meaningful venture. And I think we will get to hear much more from the participants here and of course from the crowds down there as well. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Dr. Palpol Rodiulotok. And now we come to the part when we will have a discussion with the panelists whom you have just heard, speaking about their own views, their own experiences. And I think the first question I'd like to ask of our panelists would be that if the documentary is the least viewed, and I'm taking off from what Paul just said, what is in it that gives us, that makes us believe that it will be a far-reaching tool to help our region become more united and appreciate each other more? Why are we even putting this theme as session number 1 in the ASEAN Media Forum? Why is the documentary important? Chan, ladies first.
Thank you. I think that documentary is an important part of media coverage to get people to know each other, because as said, if it is hard news and just very short programs on TV, people will not have enough. We cannot feel the main theme, the message of the program. They got the news and that's all. But to get to touch the heart of the people, the documentary has its own style. That it is not too fast. It's not too many politicians or political views. It's the people themselves. In the documentaries, we meet people, we see the way they live, we see them talk. So I think it will touch the people's heart because it has more human angle in it.
Thank you. Let me now ask how, in your experience, how in commercial TV, we've noticed that you have your network seems to have been successful in producing programs that are widely watched, that win awards, and that really tackle issues in a serious manner. Is there a formula, therefore, for documentaries that are quality programs and will be popular among the audiences?
Well, there are a couple of ways of looking at formula. One is the best formula is to throw out the formulas. And that's what I love about documentaries, is that it gives us a lot more creative freedom. Just one example, all of our other public affairs.
In promoting ASEAN, what specific recommendations can we give that perhaps we ourselves can initiate in our own countries and in collaboration with one another? So there are 3 areas. Shall we talk about the physical aspect of it? How can we actually do the documentary exchange among us, ASEAN collaborators?
Well, quite a few issues arise as a result, rather consequence of that. Attempt to link ASEAN countries in viewing documentaries. Early on, during quite a few conferences in the past, I have had very insightful conversations with organizers of conferences who focus or specialize on ASEAN topics. And what they strongly recommend was, first thing, find a funding structure which will allow for sharing resources. First thing, sharing and making use of such resources among ASEAN countries. But that would require adequate funding structure. It could be like a specific institution set up in particular, in an attempt to promote building of ASEAN community.
Are you referring, Paul, to production resources, facilities?
Yes, production facility, resources, facility resources, as well as, the translating and using of indigenous and what already, resources that already exist. And then you can convert that into materials suitable for documentary film. Now, it's almost, impossible, almost too ambitious, to always seek themes suitable for documentaries all the time. Because documentary makers are very eager, to look for new themes, new ideas. But what I heard as good recommendations was they've got amplitude of good ideas already, plus materials which can be found in indigenous networks, grassroots communities, folk tales, all kinds of things that can be translated and use that existing funding structure to allow for the reproduction, the sharing of material and then translate into different languages. And then the task with the documentary makers in each country is how to interpret and link, as he said, make that relevant to viewers, because we have commonalities among ASEAN countries.
So is this doable in the Cambodian context?
Yes, because the documentary in Cambodia, when the collaboration with among other countries, so he likes the translation. It's very important, It's very helpful to the people because more of the people in Cambodia, some they don't understand the English language, so we have to dub. Dub's very important, so it make more easy to understand. So it's very helpful, When it's like for the documentary for ASEAN, so example, if we share the idea in producing documentaries, so we can select a good stories to help to the people, and then we provide the good story and very attractive, very effective to the social in a modern time, especially because when we share experiences to each other, so we can provide the good news and the good stories. So we can collaborate with that, and we can translate to any language in all the ASEAN countries, so it's make more easy to the people.
One avenue for documentaries would be the public service broadcasting networks of the member countries, but we are also being challenged to look into new media, right, as vehicles for those documentaries. Are the facilities in programs that will not just be seen by some, but will be seen by more and more and more people, because our goal is for our ASEAN identity to be truly felt by more people in our region. While we acknowledge the efforts of the COCI, we believe that those should continue. I think what we are proposing is actually over and above what COCI is already doing. So the challenge, I think, is how do we bring in, for example, the private sector in? How do we attract, convince advertisers, for example, that this is a cool, jazzy thing to do to help ASEAN-made, ASEAN-written, ASEAN-produced documentaries?
Well, I'm not so sure that we should still be looking to commercial television to serve all of these noble purposes. Although I come from commercial television myself, and maybe that's what gives me a little authority to say that. But at the same time, I am wearing this online media hat, and I find a lot more promise in the web for this kind of pluralism. What's happening in commercial television, at least in our country, is that it's basically broadcasting kind of the lowest common denominator kind of content, partly because of the intense competition involved, and so that makes these tiny group of decision makers risk averse. And you talked about formulas earlier. Once they discover a formula that's commercially viable, they're going to keep beating that until it becomes a dead horse. But documentaries are a relatively kind of cutting edge kind of content, it was never really commercial. I mean, very few documentaries have competed with the biggest movie, Hollywood blockbusters. It has always existed for more than just commercial reasons, and I think we should look at other models, not necessarily for cinema, but for journalism. I know in other parts of the world where some of the great media organizations have downsized the big